Hey. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take the time to welcome you to another morning glory video. And we're going to continue our lesson series on what you think. What do you think? And so in this one, we're going to still deal with how do you see God? And this one basically is dealing with what most people try to shy away from. And I'm actually intrigued into what God would have us to say on this evening because it's dealing with what we give to God. A lot of us, we we say we give our whole hearts, mind, body, soul to God. But when it comes to the actual showing or the action of giving, many of us, we either shortchange God, we fail God, or we just don't believe God. Uh, and since we're dealing with thinking, uh, Proverbs 23, verse 7, if I'm thinking right, it's over there somewhere. It says, "For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, says he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. The morsel which thou hast eaten shall thou vomit up, and lose thy sweet word. Speak not in the ears of fool, for he will despise the wisdom of thy word." So what we got to see here in Proverbs is that he's talking about how people say one thing and do another. And it was funny because as I was sitting here earlier, God told me to remind someone of the words that they spoke. And when I reminded the person of the words they spoke, I didn't get a response for that. And the reason being, some of us, watch this. What we used to say, you ain't really about that life. See, we'll talk a good God game, but when it come times to get to the field and to show what we're about, most of us lose the game because it's not really in us. So we're going to be in Genesis chapter 4. And we most know this is where Cain killed Abel. We discussed this or taught on it a little bit the few days, but God wants to renew your mind in how you really see him when it does come together. Genesis chapter 4 says, "And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So in verse 1, we understand that it says Adam knew Eve. And for Bible vernacular, we understand knew to mean they had sex. And what happened? She conceived and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. So, what we can really see all through this chapter, we're going to see intimacy. Intimacy is more than wham bam, thank you, ma'am, and I got to get my rocks off or whatever we say. Intimacy always produces something. And sometimes in intimacy, some often get more than what they receive. But what we got to look at is the reception of why we receive what we got. Now, notice that after Adam knew Eve and she conceived, which means Adam planted a seed. It was a seed of conception. At the fullness of time, because we don't know how long it was till Cain was born, but you know, for the sake of the world, we'll just say 9 months. But we don't know. But notice what she said. She said, I have gotten a man from the Lord when it came to Cain, which means she recognized what where Cain came from. But watch this. How did she know it came from God when this was the first time any any of them have ever conceived? Is maybe because they was watching the animals and seeing how they conceived. But we got to look at verse 2. When she bare Abel, you didn't see her say, or it's not in scripture, that she acknowledged who Abel was. All it says was Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. See, you got to be careful when you give something to God, and once we get something from God, we try to put a name to it. See, we can't name the blessings that God has done. I know I can't name all the blessings He done in my life. So what we can see is that from some strange reason, Eve wanted to acknowledge who Cain was, but she just gave a resemblance of who Abel was. But she put a description in it. Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. Watch this. Conception again. Because she named who they were, I guess we're going to say born to be. He was born to be a keeper of sheep, but Cain a tiller of the ground. Why was Cain a tiller of the ground? Because if you remember in verse 3, the serpent was cursed. He said, upon your belly, you're going to be in the dust. So we got to understand that just maybe because of the curse, that the first seed had to work in the dirt because that's where your conception came from. That's where your conception came from. So when you give to God, do you give God a dirt offering or is it a sheep offering? Because in verse 3, it talks about in the process of time. See, What's wrong with some of us? We listen to these Johnny come lately prophets, and they always telling you name your seed, put it in the ground. God gonna do this. You notice it said in the process of time. See, nobody cannot really tell God when to bless you. You can't make up in your mind that you did enough for God. Now God need to bless you. So we see in the process of time, conception happened again. First, there was a spiritual conception because Cain and Abel were born. Now there's a natural conception because they bring in fruit and sheep. So Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. And Cain got upset. See, remember what the curse was. Let's go back to verse 3. We got a little time because I want you to understand you got to make sure what you're giving to God ain't cursed, even though you think God accepted. Let's get on down here to verse 3. He told Adam, cursed is the ground for thy sake. Adam had a seed named Cain. Cain was a tiller of the ground. Cain brought, watch this now, stay with me. Let me get on back around here. Well, let's finish it. It said, thorns, cursed is the ground. Thou shalt, let's start it. Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shall they eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it was taken, for dust thou art, and to dust thou shalt return. Now let's go back over there to verse 4 so we can make it make sense. The reason we're going to summarize why God did not respect Cain's offering, because Cain brought him a cursed offering. God had cursed the ground. He said, for your sake, not God's sake. So watch this. So his first seed was already cursed. So when he brought, because watch this, Adam and Eve wasn't supposed to work at all. Everything was given to them. The reason the ground was cursed for Adam's sake, so Adam can understand you had it made, you gave it up. That makes sense. So when he talks about, but unto Cain he had not respect, because God understood if Cain would have thought it out, Cain should have brought him some herbs, not fruit. Why wouldn't you bring fruit? Because the Bible teaches us God always have a seed after its own kind. So since the ground was cursed, that means the fruit of the ground was cursed. But he says he had respect to Abel and his offering. But watch what Abel bought him. He said the firstlings of the flock and of the fat thereof. So now you got to understand what fat is. We ain't talking about the fat in meat. You got to understand when they had to cut the first, you got to understand when they say the fat thereof, that means Abel had to prepare his offering. Cain just brought the fruit how it was. So when he said the fat thereof is the stuff that is like the liver and the things that cover the liver. That's what considered the fat. Okay? But watch this. So when you say that the liver, spiritually speaking, often represent it's the seat of your planning, of your wisdom, of your understanding, of your vision. And see, when the liver is balanced, it helps you move forward. The reason a lot of you, the reason a lot of you can't go forward spiritually, your liver is off balance. Now, with the liver is also something they call a lobe. A lobe is actually the gallbladder. So watch this. The gallbladder is often the seat of your emotions. So spiritually speaking, what Abel did, he says, I'm gonna pay you an offering, but when I give you the fat of the offering, that means I thought out what I want to do. I went in my emotions when I did it, and I'm giving you the best that I got. That's like that Anita Baker. Giving you the best that I got. Because watch this. God does not like an offering that has not been calculated, thought out, and given without emotions. Leviticus 3:16. And the priest shall burn them upon the altar. It is the food of the offering made by fire for a sweet savor. All the fat is the Lord's. So when you plan what you're gonna do for God, when you do for God out of your emotion, when you don't sit there and whine about what you're gonna do, that's when God really accepts what you do. Does that make sense? So now think about how you've been given to God. Did you plan it around what you got to do, or you plan it around God want me to do this? Because oftentimes when it comes to giving, you plan on what you're gonna do for God based on what God gonna do for you, based on the money you got coming in. That's not an acceptable offering to God. See, anytime like Cain did, you put yourself in the offering, that shows God that you are more important, and what you got to do is better than what God asks you to do. So here we see in verse 5, Cain got mad. But the Lord answered Cain. And the Lord said unto Cain, he said, why are they wroth? Why is their countenance fallen? Y'all do know that's the scripture that talks about that us as humans have a spirit that lusts to envy. See, many of you lusting after what somebody else have, but you still giving to God. The reason you don't see a return on your investment is because you giving out a spirit of lust. See, you don't give to God to get something from God. You give to God because he's God. You do for God because he's God. You don't give to God because you think God gonna protect you by giving. So many of us, the reason your money funny, the reason you can't find a job, the reason you in a spirit of poverty is because nobody really taught y'all how to give to God. So a lot of times, some of the things, sometimes when some of you give, because you in your emotion, because you got to fight about it, because you got to think about it, because you got to wrestle with it, because the car note due, because the insurance due, you can't do it. You don't believe God. You know how many times I given, hoping God make a way somehow? Sometimes God will, sometimes he won't. But this is what I'm trying to get people to understand when we get back in faith. You got to know that God has the ability to bless you anytime you want. But you also got to understand, even though God did it, he ain't got to do it the next time. Because if he keep blessing you, then where's your faith? Because he always answering your prayers. So what happens to some of you when you don't get what you want, you get mad at God. You shortchange God. You pull back from God because you want God to answer every prayer all the time. You fighting a losing battle. So when he asked Cain, he said, why you mad? Understand that Abel had to plant it, which means Abel, he cut that pig open or whatever it was. He pulled out all the plug. He pulled off all that. And what he did, he prepared it. Abel probably throwed everything in a wheelbarrow. Here you go, God. Boop. That's how y'all do God. Why your spirit falling? You, you know what's sad about us as believers? Because I'm looking at the Diddy stuff. Diddy a sinner. He speak, God talk, but when you look at his actions. So I'm looking at Charlemagne the God talking about getting Diddy Dunk the other day and talking about, hey bro, didn't you drug a girl and rape her? I'm looking at Jamal Bryant. Hey bro, how many times you had to say you sorry before you finally divorce your wife and now you run around here hitting everything that's moving? I'm looking at Jakes when he got caught up with Diddy. I ain't gonna use my sacred desk to talk about this, but now you talking about Diddy problem. You glass house Christians is why people don't come to church. So if Diddy did really want God, where he gonna see it at? Cause now we got Jakes hugged all up with him, and now he talking about him. We got the rest of the gospel singers that's on the list. Y'all all at Diddy parties. Y'all taking Diddy money, but the minute Diddy fall, you scatter like roaches. Where can where can a saved go to? Where can a sinners go to be saved? Wow. Okay. Suppose Diddy apology wasn't real and he only apologized because the tape came out. Was it what does that have to do with us? Because all of them did it. When I got caught, I apologized, but I only apologized because I got caught. But I did it. When I did apologize, I lied. Y'all did it too. How many, how much have we read that these first ladies getting cheated on and beat on by the same preachers that's preaching the gospel. You know why I said all that? Because many of you go in these churches every Sunday, think you giving God an offer of worship, an offer of praise, an offer of money, and it's not being accepted because your emotions are controlling what you do. So God had to deal with Cain right in the midst of his sin. God said, if thou doest well, shall that not be accepted? And if thou dost not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Don't that sound familiar? Because God told Eve, you gonna desire your husband, but he gonna rule over you. A lot of your desires are ruling over you. You calling it God, but it's sin. When it talks about ruling over him, that means it's gonna take over you. Huh? You left your marriage. You said God told you to do it. It's ruling over you. You left your job. You said God told you to do it. It's ruling over you. You need a place to stay. You ain't got any place to stay. You find a place to stay. It's ruling over you. Many of your desires got you captivated in a spirit of delusion because it's really what you want, but it wasn't who you wanted it with. So now, like Eve, many men and women, they got a figment of what they want, but now it ain't with the person that you with either. Sin, because your desire to be loved caused many of you to leave your marriages. But guess what? You still ain't found love because love never makes you struggle. Love don't have you homeless. Love don't have you in a lack of money. Love don't have you sleeping around. You know why? Because when you complete in him and God telling you to do something and is in love, God will never take you out of your way of living. And you become decrease instead of increase. I ain't even got no cereal today. What I told y'all about my cup. Y'all see my cup? I can squeeze. Y'all see the veins in my hand? I'm trying to squeeze this cup. The cup ain't even bending. Ask me about the cups that I didn't get when I was at home. When I squeezed them, they bent. I didn't level up with just a cup. I level up with just something simple as a cup. And I ain't trying to bull jive you. I'm trying to squeeze this thing for real. And you see them veins coming out my hand, which means I'm putting some pressure on it. How God told you to do what you wanted to do, and you got less than what you started with. Y'all see that glass? Look how thick that glass is. Boy, bro, Hubbard came up somewhere. Y'all see how thick that glass is? I'm going to drop it on the floor and see if it breaks. I'm so crazy. So, God told him, see, what we got to really understand about this scripture before we go in for, if thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted. Do you understand? A lot of us challenge, cursed out, or left people for what they lacked. But guess what? They weren't doing well either, but they never said what they lacked. So now you didn't do good, so sin at your door. Because now y'all going around wondering, Kennesaw State University, just seen that, 21 years old, got shot and killed on the campus. That's on top of the one I talked about, got strangled and burnt in a barrel. Then they took her remains and buried them about two places over in Tennessee. Then we got the little girl went out on her first date, and we might as well say she was at the butcher's block because he didn't cut her up. Then we got the other one, married, having children. The wife found out he gay, he killed them all. Sin kills who you are. But because you think you made the right move and you making the right move, you don't see what God really trying to show you, because pride won't let you see that you in a downward spiral. What you done came up in? Don't tell me you got new clothes, because see, a lot of y'all bought new clothes because you just fat. Huh? I was trying on the shirt today. It was kind of tight. I said, well, let me take this out and sit this right here. If I don't lose weight in about a month, I'm going to give it away. I'm just fat. So that don't count. You got a new car? That don't count. You got a new man? That don't count. New woman? That don't count. The only thing count is God. So what God was trying to tell him, I'm the only thing that matters. And until these shall be his desires, and they shall rule over him. Some of you are do anything for attention. That's why we was talking this morning. I said, what's the mindset? Cause see, back when I was coming up, we paid at the hole. I'm gonna say that. But what's the mindset of a woman that meet a man and just have a one night stand and don't know nothing about him? Or a man for that matter. So what's the mindset of you sitting here, you praying over your food, you praying over your children, you praying over your job, you praying over your friends, but you'll meet a man or a woman and y'all get in bed and don't won't nothing be said. Where the prayer did? When you lose your spiritual discernment around a man or a woman, that's proof enough. That's not the man or a woman for you. Because see, one thing about a man or a woman of God, they're gonna come in agreement through God. See, we're gonna talk about that imputed righteousness. See, watch this. You ever walk so tight in God that he convicts you of everything, and then sometimes you do something and you don't get no conviction? That means get ready for the revelation. Now, don't y'all go out there doing stuff talking about I don't feel bad, but because see, I ain't trying to give you a license to sin. But people who know what I'm talking about, they know what I'm talking about. See, that lacks of not being convicted, guess what? That ain't for everybody. So now many of you think because you did this and God didn't convict you, you can do it with somebody else. That ain't the way God works. How do you see God? No, God don't give you the license to sin. But when you think about that imputed righteousness and things he automatically gives you because he know you able to handle it and come out of it because you got to save somebody else. See, watch this. In verse 8, it says, and Cain talked with Abel his brother. And it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. Jealousy will make you kill a person naturally and spiritually. So they was in the field talking. Y'all know how y'all talk to Brother Hubbard. Who you think you is? You ain't the only one God talked to. Who you think you think you know this? You think you can't teach me nothing about this Bible? You did. Jealousy. I never claimed that I'm the only one God talked to. I never claimed I knew more than anyone else. All I talk about is what God has given me the ability to do. And for many of you, you don't understand the ability you have because you don't even know where God is in your life. And the reason you don't know where God is in your life is because your desire is for a carnal life and not a spiritual life. Half of you are in position that you know that you don't supposed to be there. But because your desire is ruling over you, you bucking against everything God telling you in your spirit. Man, when I was talking to somebody today and they said God told me to stop praying for such and such, I said, oh, it's judgment time. Man, I take that to heart when a person with a pure heart tells me that God told them don't pray for somebody. Do you know how serious that is? That I don't even know if they told him or not. I'm gonna tell you how serious it is. That's like you going to a firing range and you the target and they shooting. You ever seen a paper on a firing range that been shot up? In other words, that means you walking around without the protection of God. That means whatever you doing is your will. That means you a reprobate. Let's get on back to it. Did I tell y'all I'm gonna be talking about reprobate again? An unprincipled person, often humorous or affectionate. But see, that ain't the good. That ain't the one I like. Depraved, unprincipled, or wicked person, a drunken reprobate. Then it got synonyms for it, not cinnamon roll synonyms. It said rogue, a rascal, a wretch, a miscreant, a wastrel, a scoundrel, a tramp. You know what a reprobate is into today's language? A fool. See, when it says depraved and unprincipled, that means behave in a way that is not respectable or morally corrupt. A reprobate mind will have you having a one night stand. You know why? Because you ain't got no principles. You ain't got no respect for yourself. See, that's why I tell some of these women sometimes, don't be around here and talking about I'm single by choice. But then you got Jody to call up when you feeling a little moist. You ain't single. So what that mean? That means you reduce your own self to just a mattress tester. Now I can't use the word I used to use that I like to use. A lot lizard. We'll throw that one in there. So anytime you say you ain't connected to somebody, but you call somebody over to connect, you depraved. You unprincipled. A wicked person. But you sitting around here on social media where the word for the day is stay strong in the Lord and the power of his might. You ain't even consistent in the things of God. So why would I get with a woman that don't make me consistent in God? Why would you pick a man that's not making you consistent with God? Why get a man, watch this, that'll tell you the plans he want to do with you in a natural life, but he has no plan for your spiritual life? That means, guess what? That means God is not really your love. The things that you need that you prayed to God for, that's your love. So he kills Abel, his brother. See, a lot of people coming up against me now. Some for the way I talk, some for what I'm talking about, as it relates to, the other person. Some because of their sorority and fraternity. But guess what? Verse 9. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not, am I my brother's keeper? See, just because you reject what I say, don't mean it ain't true. So when God asked him where's it, he said, am I my brother's keeper? That shows when you jealous of someone, you're not going to protect them. You're not going to support them. You're not going to make sure they're okay. And see, that's what's wrong with a lot of men. You'll stay silent trying to make sure the woman okay while you toe down on the inside. Verse 10. And he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood cried unto me from the ground. See, watch this. When Abel killed the firstling of the flock, he had to spill blood. He couldn't clean it up, but he spilled blood for the sake of God. So when you spill blood for the sake of God, God always gonna know where you are and what happened to you. That's why he said, what hast thou done? In other words, your spirit telling on you. You know why I know why a lot of people doing things and in things they don't? Because your spirit telling on you. See, you can't be connected to nobody spiritual and think you're going to get away with it. But see, y'all like Cain. You don't tell me what to do. That ain't God. Huh? You don't want to see me happy. I don't care about nobody being happy. You know what'll make me happy? If I wasn't sitting here and teaching this live, I'd rather be sitting over there watching Big Bang Theory. But because y'all spilling so much blood, like you following God, and you just killing people's reputation. You killing people's spirit. Because see, it bugs me that we talk about grace and mercy. Did it can't be forgiven for beating up on Casey? I just want to know. Because the Bible will say, I read, say, they try to beat up on Kelly Price because all she did was say it was more than lying. Make sure that you really coming to God and you just not doing stuff for show. They coming on her for telling him that. What good is God when the people that need God can't get to him because the church folks gatekeeping because they don't like what you do? Why y'all think Rick Ross got Evander Holyfield mansion? Evander was giving all that money to to Creflo Dollar, but the minute Evander got in Holyfield, what did Creflo them do? They left mine and cold. Down in Birmingham, what's that mayor name? The mayor, the loan. He was getting all that money to the Faith Dome. He got in trouble. What they do to him? See, church will take your money, but when you need them, I mean, cause come on, Jake. Not only was you laying up in Diddy's arms, with Diddy laying in your arms, you got a daughter that took another woman's child by the sea, and you ain't telling her to get that lady her daughter back. So when you care about a woman and a woman on here making videos about your daughter took her son because she can't have children and won't get a girl child back, man, y'all ain't nothing but a bunch of hypocrites. Verse 11. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shall thou be in this earth. I'm finna hurt somebody's feelings, and it's gonna feel good. Because what we got to understand, do you know what a vagabond means? See, a lot of y'all think y'all in the will of God. A vagabond, come on, get up here so I can make sure I got everything I want. A person who wanders from place to place without a fixed home. Ask yourself where you stay. Moving from place to place without a fixed home, watch this, of relating to or characteristics of a wanderer, leading an unsettled, irresponsible, or disreputable life. If you walk around here with no money, if you don't know how you gonna make it, if you don't know that you can afford to rent at where you stay, if you know nobody don't want you where you stay, don't you know you cursed? It should not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. Don't you know you ain't making no money because you curse? Don't you know what a fugitive is? That means you done killed so many people's spirit that now it's time for your spirit to be killed. That's why y'all got to watch what y'all say about people in a fit of anger, in a fit of jealousy, in a fit of rage. And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. How in the world you ain't got no place to stay and you comfortable? Man, when I was staying in that darn car, I wasn't comfortable. When I was staying up there in that, up there in Chattahoochee and them little things up there, I wasn't comfortable. But watch this. It was my home for a season. See, I had a fixed home, so I'm not out the will of God. You understand me? Because watch this. The day I told the lady I was gonna leave and don't come back, I noticed a man just sitting outside in his car for hours. And when I finally went in the office, the man was coming out. So I said, hey, I think I'm finna leave. Well, Diedrich, when you gonna leave? I said, shoot. I said, maybe this weekend. I said, no. I said, if I go get my trailer and come back and it ain't dark, I said, I'm leaving tonight. You know what she said? Ooh, that must be God. She said, you see that man just left out there? He really needs somewhere to stay. You see how God works? It wasn't nothing I would get per se, but for the time being, that's was my shelter because sometimes God had to get you in a place to get you in place. What God mean to you? If God don't give you the man of your dream, the woman of your dream, the marriage of the dream, the house, the car, will you still serve him? That's what we finna get down to. Because in this world to come, we gonna lose all this. Y'all ain't gonna be able to see Brother Hubbard on video. The infrastructure gonna be gone. You ain't gonna be able to go in the refrigerator to get no food. Ain't gonna be no power. You ain't gonna be able to go to the grocery store and just buy some food. You gonna have to kill it and cut it. And we still want carnal things when God trying to give us the mindset to get out of those things. See, the reason we got to talk about renewing your mind is because the world changing and a lot of you can't see it because you in the world. So why are you still praying to God to give you things that's about to come to an end?